Welcome to the Adventures with Annie Peguero podcast. This podcast is for ambitious humans who want to live a life of impact and abundance through adventure. I've been a coach since 2011, helping people step out of their comfort zone and into the life that they desire. I'm a former federal law enforcement officer, and my experience in life of living for 7.5 years on an island in the Far East and coaching women to live their true, authentic selves has been a beautiful journey, and I know you're going to find so much value in these episodes. Here we go. Let's go on an adventure together. All this talk about island time, so many people that I've been meeting these days telling me how busy they are, how they just can't slow down, how they have no time for anything, and they just have activity to activity with their families and so much. So I've created an Island Time Wellness Challenge. It's starting on April 18th. It's going to be tons of fun. I've got workouts for you, recipes. It's custom designed, so no MLM or anything like that. It's designed by me. You could sign up for it over on my website at anniepeguero.com. Right up at the top, you'll see a link for the Island Time Wellness Challenge. I can't wait to see you there. Okay, let's do this thing. It's episode 81. And, I've noticed something that every single time I run into somebody that I know or I meet somebody new, they are telling me how busy they are. And listen, I get it. Like, everybody has jobs that they go to, people to tend to in their lives, kids' activities, we're driving people around. And there's a lot that, we're doing in our lives. And I want to bring some attention to the Western culture. And the reason why I feel that, I am an expert and able to talk about this is because I did live in the Far East for 7.5 years. You guys, 7.5 years on an island in the Far East. That's a very long time to be immersed in another culture. So it's one thing to travel somewhere and visit, but to live somewhere for 7.5 years, we were really in it. We were really in the Asian culture, and specifically the Okinawan culture. It's very, very different from anywhere on mainland Japan and other places in Asia. When we talk about island time, it doesn't get any more island time than Okinawa. Trust me on that one. Okay, so the reason why I feel like this is super important, because here in the United States, that transition from when we lived on this island for so long, back to the United States was I don't want to say challenging, but a steep curve, right? Like a steep learning curve, because on island time, living on that island, it was all about turning inward, getting quiet, really going deep with your inner passions, your desires, your true authentic self, all of the buzzwordy type things that people here in the West are talking about and, striving to do in their life. But, on this island, people were actually doing it, and they lived this way for their whole entire lives. So the thing that I notice most when I talk with people here, they talk about how busy that they are. They talk about how busy they are, and there doesn't seem to be any way or solution or goal to become unbusy. It's just like, okay, I'm busy. I'm going from activity to activity, going through life, and there doesn't really seem to be any way to not be so busy, right? It's just like the norm. It's the normal way of living, and nobody seems to give it a second thought, okay? People have minimal time and energy. Like, everybody's spent. Getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep is almost unheard of. It's almost unheard of. And if we find ourselves having some extra time in our day, the very first thing that we want to do is fill it with something, right? Like, I have time, I need to learn to sew, or I need to go to the gym, or I need to do X, Y, and Z. And we justify it by saying, well, people need us. My kids need me to do this. We have to eat, so I have to cook, like all of those things. So stick with me, because if you're already like, well, I don't see any way out of it. Like there are things that I have to do. I have to show up. I have to be there. I have to do this. Stick with me, because we're going into a place that I know that you're going to enjoy thinking of in a different way, and like welcoming in some different energy, some different vibrations into your everyday life. Okay. So, if you're a person that says, I'm so busy, like I have so much to do. I have so much on my plate, maybe when I retire, I can do X, Y, and Z. Now I did an episode on this, like it was the solution to being too busy. I did this episode back a while ago, and that episode was more about like delegating and really looking at your tasks. But this episode today is really taking on the idea of island time and bringing that into your everyday life, like that vibe, that energy, that thought. When you are faced with some time in your life, or you are given a choice, I want you to start thinking about, how can I do less? How can I bring stillness and peace into my life? And really kind of release that need to be so busy. So if you sometimes feel yourself on a roller coaster, right, of feeling like you are in a flow, you're feeling healthy, you're feeling a really positive vibe, you're feeling like you are full of positive energy, you're feeling peaceful, and then very quickly after that, you're feeling overwhelmed, like you are stuck in indecision, like you are being pulled in so many different directions, you're overwhelmed. And it's a roller coaster. Like one day you're feeling great and you're feeling in the flow, and the next day you're feeling overwhelmed and you have no time, no energy, and like no space for even your own thoughts. Okay. This is for you. Okay. Like this is totally for you. Here's another thing, if you have lived in restriction, okay, if you have intentionally lived in deprivation, I'm talking about like deprivation diets, or, something that's not sustainable, restriction, deprivation, and you're just hoping for the best. You're like, well, if I just deprive myself of this, then I'm going to, see what happens, or I'm going to hope for the best and see what happens in my life. If that's been you living in restriction, then this is for you. I want you to really think about what I'm going to talk about here in this episode. If you have been like kind of on a fitness roller coaster too, or you've had like an all or nothing mentality, like, you know what I'm talking about with the never miss a Monday without working out. I mean, it's like a thing in the fitness industry, and you'll see it all over social media. On Monday, people are posting their workouts and they're like, never miss a Monday. I mean, seriously, what's going to happen? What literally is going to happen if you miss a Monday? If you're feeling like your body is saying that you need more rest, if it's the moon cycle of yours, whether it's a new moon or full moon, waning or waxing, and you know that during that moon cycle, you need to rest. Well, by all means, miss the friggin' Monday. Okay. So the reason why, I am qualified to speak on this is because living in the Far East, I went to so many different healing modalities and different types of Asian and Eastern medicine that focused on healing and turning inward. So I went to these different Asian medicine healers, Chinese medicine healers, for different physical pains and ailments. And their suggestion for me was always be still and do nothing. And that I had a really hard time wrapping my head around that. I was like, well, what can I do? No, really. I'd be like, well, really, what do I do? And they're like, Annie, nothing. Do nothing. And that was so backwards for me from being, one, a law enforcement officer, like always somebody who was responding. I was ready. I was at the ready at all times, ready to response ready. My bags were packed, you guys. I was friggin' ready. Like I was ready for anything. And then when I wasn't working, I was on the go. I was biking. I was running. I was lifting weights in the gym, always at a level of preparedness. Okay. And then even when I married Al and I resigned from my job and I moved to the Far East, I was still trying to fill my time and my life with things. And by things, I mean like activities, going from thing to thing to thing. Like always there was an activity. Like we'd be at the beach and I'd be like, okay, what are we going to do next? Like it was never about being still and living in the moment and doing nothing. So if that's you, if you find yourself like in response mode, going from activity to activity, then I really hope that you will embrace this and allow these words to really sit in your heart, and come back and listen to this episode a couple of times and see how you can really implement this idea of island time in your life. So when I was advised to do nothing, like I said, like I couldn't even wrap my head around it. I couldn't even figure out how that could be a thing. And I wanted to, kind of do my way into wellness. And so before really embracing this, and it was years, you guys, it was years into our time living on this island and being told to do nothing by several healers of many different modalities. I was rushing around. I was rushing my family around. And that's the thing that kind of stings the most for me in the, my girls' really little days when they were so small. I'd rush them around. I'd rush them to dance class and, art classes and soccer at the age of 2, mommy day, like literally all the things, because I felt like they needed to be exposed to all of the things. And I realized that did serve a purpose for me at the time, but I was, again, trying to fill the time because that busyness that is so Western was ingrained in me. So even my workouts were so incredibly diehard and intense, and I became so incredibly burnt out and possible adrenal fatigue from, all the deprivation and the dieting and the living in restriction that I had been doing for so many years, and just being on that roller coaster of deprivation and then binging, especially with drinking too, like deprivation, binging, just burnout and fatigue. So, if this even sounds remotely like something that you've done, I want you to recognize whether or not slowing down feels comfortable for you or uncomfortable. So it's pretty easy to identify. If you're a person that says, well, I don't even know what to do if I sit still. Like I can't possibly sit still because I have so much to do. I have so much on my plate. Slowing down doesn't feel comfortable. And if slowing down doesn't feel comfortable, from my many, many years of being engrossed in personal development, I know that discomfort means growth. And if something feels incredibly uncomfortable for you, stick with it. It means you need more of it. If it feels very uncomfortable for you, and it's not harmful, right? That it's something good for you because your body, fight or flight mode is there. It's your preservation mode. It's your reptilian brain there to save you and protect you. Fear is there to save you. You don't have fear of being still, right? It just feels uncomfortable. It's not something that brings about fear. It just feels like, oh, I should be doing something. I should be, whatever, insert your thing, like cooking dinner, exercising, or, learning this new skill, whatever it is. So when you notice the feeling of stillness, when you begin to practice stillness, many things will happen for you, and it happens relatively quickly. When you notice that stillness is not a part of your life and you begin to bring stillness into your life, some things are going to happen. Here's what happened for me, okay? What happened for me was unexpected. Like I didn't foresee this happening. I didn't realize this was going to happen. It was very surprising. So I had a fresh and rejuvenated outlook on moving my body. When exercise no longer became a survival skill, when I no longer viewed exercise as life-saving, like when I no longer had to do exercise in order to, be at the tip of the spear, the top of my game, ready in response mode to go to a call or to respond in a law enforcement setting. Like when I removed exercise from that part of my life, the outlook that I have was refreshed. When I saw it as moving my body and moving my body in a way that brought joy, moving my body in a way that brought peace and strength, and it got me excited and I felt energized, as opposed to having to pass a fitness test or being response ready or having to build muscle. So if you're like, I'm not in law enforcement, like I don't get that. So always, wanting to reach a certain body weight or goal or aesthetic, within my body. Trust me, the aesthetic will come when you shift your mindset about the exercise itself, because the stress that you're placing upon yourself about having to look a certain way or never miss a Monday or living in the deprivation that is not sustainable, it takes a serious toll, so much more than you realize, on the outcome and the desired outcome that you have from engaging in the fitness in the first place. It's so crazy. Okay, so I felt empowered instead of restricted. And that was very unexpected. I didn't expect, like once I got quiet and once I paid attention to my own intuition when it came to my food choices, when it came to the exercise that I was engaging in, when it came to what I was doing and being during my times of stillness and sitting in meditation, I felt empowered. I felt powerful. I felt strong, right? I felt friggin' amazing. Like I felt in control of my life, right? And in control of my decisions, as opposed to living to somebody else's, level or expectation of what I should be doing in my life. And that goes from everything from employers to fitness coaches, like somebody that, would write a nutrition plan for me. Like I was in that like pleasing mode instead of just sitting in myself. So it became very empowering for me, very powerful. And another unexpected thing that happened for me, and it will happen for you when you welcome stillness and this idea and concept and vibe of island time into your life, that your values will become a thing. Your values, your integrity, your living your true authentic life and self becomes a thing instead of just words, and time management will no longer be a concern. You no longer have to regulate your actions, like whether it's scrolling on social media or, binging Netflix. You'll know that you're doing those things for a purpose. Like scrolling definitely serves a purpose. It can be a way to unwind. It can be a way to catch up and see what other people in your circles are doing. It's just when it becomes like a habit or the very first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning, or you're scrolling for hours before bed, those are all red flags. And you already know they're red flags. Like nobody needs to sit here and tell you. But when you honor your values and you say, okay, what's important to me? What is like our word of 2022? My husband and I always choose a word for the year, and our word is keystone for 2022. And keystone for us means basically like getting back to basics, getting back to our values that we have and that we discuss as a couple and as a family, the things that are truly important to us. So when I have something on the schedule, I look at it and I'm like, okay, or we have an opportunity to do something or, hang out with someone or whatever. We're like, all right, does this honor our values? Does this honor our keystone? Is this honoring the word that we chose for the year? It's very simple. It's either yes or no. And if it does, then we move forward with it. And if it doesn't, then we just don't do it. We don't make the plans. We don't, we don't make the plans. So it became, our life became less about managing our time and managing our calendar and activities and things, and more about staying true to our values and honoring our values. And once we really did that and eliminated some things from our schedule, magically, all this time opened up. Like magically, we had all of this time in our lives to spend in stillness, to spend in peace, to spend, getting quiet in our own bodies and bringing the vibe that we had on island time, living on this island for 7.5 years, being able to bring that into our life here in the United States. So when all of our friends are saying, I feel so busy, I feel like I just don't have time, like I'm running from activity to activity, or they say things to me like, you must be so busy, or you are so busy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not. And it's something that I create intentionally. And it's strangely enough, like nobody says anything to me when I say things like that. They're just like, oh, like they don't say, wow, how can I do that? Or how can I welcome, less busyness into my life or more stillness? It's just like, oh, like people don't even realize that that could be their life. Like that could be something for them. Like island time and living with intention and with less busyness is something that I have seen that people don't even feel like is for them. So when people talk to me about how busy they are and how busy I must be, it feels really good to share that I have plenty of time to spend on everything that matters to me. Everything that matters to me, I have time for. And that is you. Like that can be your life. It just is a matter of honoring your values, living a life of stillness, living a life of really evaluating your choices before you say yes to something. So just, some specifics and some ways that you can welcome this idea of island time into your life are, creating an ease mindset, creating a mindset of how can I make this easier? Like, what can I do? What can I be? Or what can I not do? What can I let go of that is going to make this day more enjoyable? And if you look at your day and you're like, there's nothing, like I literally have to do all these things. I have to take my kids to these places. I have to prepare this or that. Welcoming space into your brain and welcoming peace into your brain, even if it's for 5 minutes, you will lay it down at night a much happier human being, I promise. Just welcoming that stillness into your life and saying, I'm going to fill this time that I have. It's 4 minutes. I'm going to fill this 4 minutes with nothing. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to breathe and I'm going to stare at the trees outside, like whatever, sitting in the pickup line in your car, picking up your kids and just sitting there and not feeling like it's time to scroll or it's time to do something or it's time to call somebody, like really just sitting in stillness. Okay. Wow. I could talk about this forever. I love talking about this. I love bringing awareness to stillness in your life and how important it is. And I love doing it here on this podcast because what I have usually in person when I talk to people about this is immediately they're against it. Immediately. There's no way I could do that. Or ha ha ha, like laughter. There's absolutely no way. So if you've made it to the end of this podcast, congratulations, congratulations. And there is stillness for you. There is stillness and peace in your life. It's just about you saying yes to it and you recognizing that doing nothing is a gift, and a gift that you always have available for you, and that you can say, yes, I want this. Yes, I need this. I need this nothingness in my life. So I remember it was June of 2020. I went to, absolutely amazing healer on Okinawa. And again, this was probably, I can't even count, like maybe the sixth or seventh different healer on Okinawa that told me to do nothing. And I still was like in shock. I was like, how could this be? Like, what can I do? What exercises should I do? And they're like, Annie, do nothing. Do nothing. And that's when it was like it hit me all at once. Like what I had been learning for years and years, it was just like so in my face right there that I couldn't not listen. I could not listen again. And that's what I want for you. Like, there's no need for you to go years and years and rushing through your life. Life is too friggin' short. It's too short. So just welcoming in those times of peace into your life, even if it's just a few minutes here and there of that feeling of island time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I trust that it was so incredibly valuable for you. I'd love you to leave a review for me over on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. Just leave a written review. That would mean so much. And as always, pop on over to anniepeguero.com to see the things that I have going on. I have an Island Time challenge, a 5-week challenge going on that starts in April, right after the kids' spring break, and it runs for 5 weeks. And you can find that over on my website at anniepeguero.com. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.